the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, PrecisionHydration.com. Precision Hydration offer electrolyte drinks in different strengths that match how you sweat. You can personalize your hydration strategy today at PrecisionHydration.com and get a free box or tube of pH worth up to $9.99 using the code Oxygenaddict. We're also brought to you by foodcell.co.uk, the next generation of top tube nutritional carrier for your bike, designed to allow endurance triathletes and cyclists enough food and gels while allowing easy access. Check it out at foodcell.co.uk. We're also brought to you by TeamOxygenaddict.com Triathlon Coaching, helping hundreds of age group triathletes see huge improvements in their 70.3 and Ironman performances. The time training system will make sure you get the important training done each week in a way that complements the rest of your life. Okay, everybody, this week we've got a cracking interview with Lukas Siska. He was recently third place overall at Ironman UK. Lukas is a great guy. I've known him for several years. He was on one of the British triathlon coaching courses that I ran years back, and it was great to see him racing. He's a former ITU professional. He took, I think, 3 years out from the sport recently to concentrate on other things and to concentrate on coaching, and he's recently refound his love of the sport and come back all guns blazing into the long distance scene. So it was great to see him finish third in his first race. We've got a cracking interview with him. It goes on for quite a while. Actually, it's probably 45 minutes because we were enjoying talking so much. So loads and loads of good stuff from him. He's a really, really good guy. And before we kick it off this week, we've got a coach's couch for you. And the one thing I want to talk to you about this week is the importance of having correct FTP numbers and power numbers set up so that your zones are correct for riding your bike. Now, this has come about through our private Facebook group. We've had a few athletes this week who have been looking at their data in Training Peaks and looking at the training that they've been doing. And it basically boils down to exactly what I said in the title of this. It's so important to have the correct FTP numbers set up. If you know what FTP is, it's basically, if you imagine going out and riding your bike as hard as you can for an hour, that would be the power, the average power for the hour that you've put out. Or if you're not a power meter user, if you're riding with heart rate, it's the heart rate that you would average for that entire hour. And the way we structure our training is we relate everything to this power number or to this heart rate number. We come up with a series of zones and we say, each training session has got a specific aim, but by training in the specific zones relative to that FTP power or functional threshold heart rate, guarantees you get exactly the kind of workout that you're aiming for and make sure that your workout is really, really specific. Now, what we've seen with a couple of athletes recently is they've either done their FTP tests and they've not then updated the number correctly into Training Peaks, or they've done their FTP test and it's either not updated the number correctly or they've not updated the number at all. Now, Training Peaks is really clever. Once you tell it what your FTP heart rate or number is, it'll do the maths for you, but obviously it'll only do the maths for you based on the number that you tell it. So in the workouts we give our athletes, they'll get, it'll be very, very specific. It'll say, right, we want you to ride 5 minutes at 180 watts, and that will be an exact percentage of their functional threshold power. So it won't say ride at 80% of your power, it'll give them an exact target to work on, or it'll say, ride at 142 beats per minute, and that's again relative to their threshold number. It's so important that number's accurate, because all the numbers that get given out from Training Peaks or that come out in Zwift, if you're riding in there, it's all based on that number. So I just wanted to draw people's attention to that and say, look, make sure you've got those numbers correct. If you're racing soon, it's really important that you do an outdoor FTP test, because we always see the vast majority of people, their number is different outdoors to indoors. It might be a bit higher, it might be a bit lower, it might be in some cases significantly different. And if you're riding to the wrong FTP number or the wrong FTP heart rate, then it's just not going to be accurate for race day. So it's super important you do an outdoor test before you race. Usually we recommend about 3 weeks before. And again, if you're riding just with heart rate, that's fine. It's a good chance for you to correlate how you're feeling against what your heart rate looks like. Another thing to be aware of is, in order to set your FTP number correctly in terms of doing a test, we don't have you do the test for the full hour. We give you a test for 20 minutes. So we say go as hard as you can for 20 minutes. The average power of that 20 minutes, we then take 95% of that and say you'd probably be able to sustain 95% of that number over the whole hour. So super important that you remember to take 95% of that power number for 20 minutes. However, if you're just a heart rate user, what we do is we take your heart rate for the entire 20-minute section, because usually your heart rate it will average out a little bit higher than your actual functional threshold heart rate over an hour would do. But that first few minutes when your heart rate is getting up to that level seems to make the average number over the 20 minutes almost exactly what the leveled out number would be as it settles into a flat plateau. So you can take the heart rate number for the whole 20 minutes from that test. And another thing to be really aware of is make sure you've got a fan blowing cool air over you if you're riding indoors on a turbo trainer or watt bike, because obviously your heart rate is going to be massively affected by the heat stress of riding without any air blowing over you, and it can skew your numbers by 5 to 10, maybe even 12 beats a minute if you haven't got cool air blowing over you. So make sure that you have got a fan blowing over you if you're doing this indoors. Okay, and just the last thing to mention on this is the heat can have a big effect on your heart rate. So just remember that if you're riding indoors, take care of the cool air blowing over you. So that's Coach's Catch for this week. Hopefully it's helped you out if you've got a race coming up, or it's helped you out with the ideas around FTP numbers and zones and things like this. Now, we've got a free download available at the moment called Analyzing Your Race Performance. It's a document we give to our athletes in Team Oxygenaddict. After you've raced, download a copy, follow all the instructions in the document, and it'll really help you get to grips with what went right or what didn't go right on race day. And once you've been through that, if you feel you've not had the race you deserved or expected according to how your training is, and you're interested in finding out how training with Team OA methodology and the time training system might be able to help you, I'm going to offer a couple of free training consultations each week over the summer where you can talk through your training and your results with me over Skype. It's totally free. There's a link in the show notes. Pop your email address in there and I'll email you to work out a time that works for both of us. Now, this week we've got a little short testimonial from Team Oxygen Addict Ollie Haig. Ollie's going to tell us about how his experience of training with the team has been.
Hi, my name's Oliver. I'm a member of Team Oxygen Addicts, and I wanted to just tell you how being part of the team has helped me grow from being a pretty normal triathlete who could do Olympic distance to doing an Ironman and signing up for another Ironman. I'm looking forward to it as well. I used to struggle with time, with managing to fit everything in with consistency, probably with not really knowing enough about the training as well. So having that structure and the resource of the team to talk to people and really just get an understanding of how things work and how you can overcome any problems, it's just such a massive help. The results I've seen over the last 12 months have been incredible. 2 weeks ago, I took nearly 20 minutes off an Olympic distance time from 2 years ago around Slateman, which just blew me away. I know that I'm going to turn up in the Ironman course in July, ready, fit, strong, and able to enjoy the day, which is everything really. I love being part of the group, the Facebook group and the community, and meeting the people in real life is brilliant. There's not so much knowledge there that there is nothing that you can come up with or come up against that someone hasn't experienced and can help you with. So it is just a great place to be. I'm looking forward to developing further with Team OA. My plans to continue the long distance tries, maybe some of the more extreme ones like Keltman, and see where we go from there. But the future is always going to be good.
Okay, so that was Ollie's experience. If you're looking for coaching and you want to get the best out of yourself at any triathlon event over any distance, we've got you covered at Team Oxygen Addict. Basically, we've got options for training plans, Team Oxygen Addict coaching, and even bespoke one-to-one coaching with me or Coach Susie Richards. You can find out more through the website, either teamoxygenaddict.com or the main website this podcast is hosted on, oxygenaddict.com. All right, so before we go into our main interview with Lukas, a couple of shout outs for our sponsors. First up, Go over to precisionhydration.com. You can take their free online sweat test, and that's going to give you a real good lead as to whether you're a particularly salty or heavy sweater. You need to be taking care of your electrolyte intake when you're racing this summer, especially over long distance and especially if you're racing in the heat. They've got some great products there with electrolytes that are of different strengths, so everything from 250 milligrams all the way through to 1500 milligrams. It means that you can replace the same amount of electrolytes in a bottle of drink as you lose in the same volume of water as you sweat. So for me, I'm an incredibly salty sweater. I was just drinking standard electrolyte drinks, and I was basically losing about 1500 milligrams of sodium more than I was replacing for every litre of sweat that went out. So on a hot day, it was like 6,000 milligrams of sodium that was going over the course of an Ironman, leading to some horrendous experiences for me. So if you're struggling in the heat, or you're struggling in general with your racing performances and cramps and things like that, pH can really help you out. Second shout out for sponsor is foodcell.co.uk. They make a super cool top tube nutritional carrier. Bolts to the top tube of your bike if you've got bolts, or it uses Velcro straps to attach. It's got loads of space inside. You can fit 4 gels or 2 massive bits of flapjack, or even your spares kit inside this thing. It's really sleek. It's really aerodynamic. Everything gets hidden from the wind. I personally use it for my spares kit, and I struggled for years to find a way to carry my spares kit in a way I was happy with on my really sleek time trial bike. This has been the solution for me. It tucks it all out of the wind on the top tube. It's even got little dimples drilled into it so it looks like a zip wheel. It's absolutely awesome bit of kit. You can open it and close it with one finger, so if you're using it to store food, you can get stuff out and put wrappers back in with one hand as you're riding along. I can even do that now on the aero bars with a little bit of practice. So really useful compared to other ones on the market where I've had them, and to be honest, they weren't worth the money I spent on them because I couldn't get anything into or out of them, especially as I was riding along. All right then. So guys, we've got this week's interview of the week with Lukas Siska. Lukas, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks very much for joining us, man. And congratulations on third place at Ironman UK a few weeks ago. How are the legs feeling? That's the first question. Have you recovered yet? And can you walk down the stairs forwards, mate?
Thanks for having me, Rob. It's great to be here. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Pretty much back into full training mode now. The legs were definitely sore for a little bit, but they're back to normal now, thankfully.
I bet they were a little bit sore, yeah. I was just watching before the interview. I was doing a bit of preparation. I was watching on your YouTube channel. There's a really cool video you've put together with like clips from spectators and friends and stuff, which is as good as, if not better than, the official race footage from the day. I think it's really cool the way you've put that together. So I really enjoyed watching that, man. Thanks for doing that.
Oh no, thank you for watching. It was fun to put it together. It made it easy with. I mean, everybody says this, and it's so true that Ironman UK has such good crowd support, and I got random videos sent to me by so many different people that me trying to be a budding YouTuber made it easy to kind of put that little montage together, I think it turned out okay.
It's good, yeah. It's really enjoyable, man. It's a great little race video. So let's go like the basics of this to start with. You obviously. We've got the old American accent going on here, but there's a lot of local support for you in and around the Bolton area because you were based around there for, I don't know how long, a number of years. I'll explain to the listeners, we kind of know each other a little bit, don't we? We were on one of the BTF coach education courses a couple of years ago. And
yes.
I remember you really well. We had a real good laugh and we hit it off really well. So we lost contact for a while, and then when your name popped up finishing third, I was like, get in! Good lad, that's a great result for you. And it was your first Ironman as well, wasn't it? So third place in your first Ironman event it's pretty good going, buddy.
Oh no, cheers. Yeah, it was my first one. As you know, Rob, I come from an ITU background, so I thought I'd give Ironman a go, and it turned out okay. So
yeah, it sure did. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, let's talk about Ironman UK first, and then we'll go back and we'll talk about your background and the ITU days and all that kind of stuff. So, having just watched your video, you were you were officially first out of the water, right? Although it looks to me like there was a little bit of like who's going to get first over the checkpoint thing going on.
Yeah, no, there was actually, I think if we get real technical, for out of the water, the French guy that I was swimming with, I think he was maybe a second to the timing map first, but then as soon as we got to transition, I was in first. So if you watch the little video, I just put first.
That's close enough for me, man. You were close enough to first out of the water. And it was what? It was like a 48-minute swim, was it? Something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, just under 49, so like 48:58, I believe. So.
And how was the experience for swimming around there? Was it pretty cruisy on race day? Because UK's got a reputation for it's a tough old course, and some people say even that swims uphill. So it's interesting to get a guy of your sort of ITU caliber swimming in there, because it gives the observer like okay, there's a benchmark. An ITU swimmer swims 48 minutes in that kind of course. So did you think it was pretty accurate? It was a pretty decent swim?
It felt, I felt good in the water, but it did feel slightly long.
Yeah.
I could just be saying that. Maybe it wasn't, but that was the kind of impression that I had. The first lap was real nice and smooth, but then once we got into the second lap, that's when it did feel like, we were swimming uphill with all the people and everything. So it was like constantly trying to wiggle around people. And maybe that's why it felt a little bit longer. But overall, I mean, I enjoyed the swim. It was great.
How difficult is it for you front guys when there's the rolling start, and presumably, I mean, are there still people getting in as you finish your first lap? Was it as bad as that? Not bad, but was it as congested as that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, when we started coming around for the second lap, it was clear to come around. But then as soon as we got in that water, within a couple hundred meters, we were just into the crowds of people. And that's when sighting and all that really came into play, because it was just trying to get to that direct line as much as possible, but not run over anybody and keep the pace up. So. And
have you ever experienced anything like that before, like swimming through what must have been 1,000 people pretty much you swam through during the course of that 1,900 meter second lap?
Yeah, I've experienced that before, just doing, outside of IT racing. Now, of course, I used to do a lot of local races and things anyways. So you always kind of get a bit of that anytime that you swim in an age group race. So, it wasn't the first time.
Okie dokes.
Yeah.
So you through transition, you're out onto the bike first, which must have been pretty special. I mean, the video you've got shows it. And it kind of brought it home to me, because I was watching thinking, wow, imagine that. Like, you are the only bike on the road for a lot of that first lap. It looked pretty amazing, man.
It felt amazing. And I think, like I said in that little video, maybe too amazing. I was pretty hyped. And you start seeing friends on the course that are just they're thrilled that they see somebody they know in the lead. And you start to feed on that more and more. And it's just amazing. All over the course, you see people that know you. And for a good 55 miles, I was in the lead. So it was just, loving life, not feeling any pain. And then Brian rolls around and reality sets in, and you're like, oh, this hurts, man. I think I did go out a little bit too fast, because the pace significantly, my wattage dropped quite a bit for that second lap.
Yeah.
So.
And do you put that down to the adrenaline of so many people knowing you, being sort of, I'm guessing like most of the local triathlon clubs and communities, even if they don't know you personally, they know your name and they know who you are, right? So you're getting a lot of cheers out there on the course.
Yeah, well, it certainly felt that way. I don't know how many people actually knew me that were cheering for me out there, but I felt like I was a hometown boy as I was going around, and that was really special. I'll always remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely caused me to go a little bit quicker than I should have done.
So when Brian caught you, was that about the halfway point?
He caught me exactly going up Belmont. We kind of went up there together, and then we were at the top of Sheep House together. So I guess that's about 3 miles from once you start the second lap. So it's got to be about 55, 60 miles into it, something like that.
Yeah. And we attempted to go with him, or was it one of those cases of, okay, there he goes?
Yeah.
And
Well, it was since we were on a climb. It wasn't like he just blew by. I think on a flat, that's where Brian really makes up his ground. And I was, of course, you have those thoughts. Let me just suck into this really strong cyclist wheel for a bit and go. But I was so worried about a penalty. I wanted to make sure that in case a motorcycle happened to be coming at that time, that I wasn't going to get docked for anything. I didn't want to come all the way over to Ironman UK and then get penalized for something silly. So I purposely dropped back out of the draft zone and then just kind of watched him climb over. And yeah, that's how it went.
And then one thing I've wondered about is, obviously, this is the first year that the race has come down Sheep House, isn't it? Previously, that's been the classic climb. And when I first heard the course had been changed and people were coming down there, I was like, you have got to be kidding. People are going to race down it. How was that going downhill down that section? Was it as hairy as I think it probably was?
I think if you didn't know it, it could be really hairy and scary. But from living over in that area, I've ridden down there so many times, so I felt fine going down it.
Yeah.
Actually, the scary part was not that descent, but it was, I don't know all the names of all the descents. I can only describe it to you after. You take a left at the top where there's this big old pub, and then you go right and down.
I bet there's like 2,000 people nodding their heads right now going, yeah, I know what you mean.
People know what I'm talking about. A real small lane. When you rode on it before race day, it was even scarier because you didn't know if a car was coming up or anything. So I think that was probably the scariest descent. But thankfully, I think for the most part, everybody survived the course without too many major incidents. I did hear of somebody breaking their back.
Oh, really?
But I think he ended up being okay, thankfully.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And what was your impression of the bike course then? Obviously, being a local lad, you used to ride in those roads. There's a lot of, there's a lot of chatter on the forums and people sort of saying, like, they've just made this too tough. It's just too hard. We had Brian on a couple of weeks ago, and Brian's attitude was, it's welcome to Bolton, kids, Go and train really hard, and it's a tough course, you know what you're signing up for. Do you enjoy riding that kind of rough back roads kind of ride?
It was a course that you never got bored on. Definitely, your mind was constantly occupied. I do think it was really, really tough, and even I knew what I was getting myself into, but then doing the whole bike course all at once, in the race, those hills just really, really get to you. Like, for me, my lower back was absolutely killing around mile 85, 90 miles just from all the climbing. And I think any Ironman after this one is going to feel pretty easy. So in that sense, I'm trying to take the positives from that. But there were points where I was thinking, whoever designed this course needs to be slapped, Yeah. But
there's the quote. There's the quote for the head of the show right there.
Yeah. In the end, looking back, it was fun, and you're proud that you got through it, So.
Oh, I love that. Anyone who designed this course needs to be slapped. I suppose at least all the age groupers who raced with you, I love it when, the very top guys come on and go, do you know what, mile 85, my lower back was killing from all the climbing, because I think we all default when we're racing to this feeling of, oh, poor me, everyone else has got it better, I've got this thing. So it's really great to hear people saying, I was in agony for the last 25 miles of that course. So good for you for being straight with people.
Definitely. I was definitely in the pain locker, and there was points around that 85, 90 mark where I was thinking to myself, I've trained hard for this, I'm ready for this, but that marathon still feels pretty daunting after all this. But you just have to remind yourself that you've done the work, your body's ready, and you got this. And that's what happened. As soon as I got to the marathon, I already forgot about the bike, and it was just, last leg of the triathlon kind of thing.
So you're off the bike in 5th, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And so tell us how the run played out then. Who was around you at that point? Would you have had Tom Rigby and Tony Cullen and those guys? Would they? And there was an Italian guy who finished second, wasn't there? Who was an axe on the bike as well.
Right, yeah, that Italian guy was pretty awesome. I saw him. I saw all those guys in front of me pretty quickly as soon as we got into the town center. I think Tony Cullen actually came into the run second, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Yeah, I've got the results here. So let's see. He rode like 5:26. And then Francesco Maschiarelli, he rode a 5:20. So yeah, you've all been pretty tightly stacked. You and Tom Rigby, and yeah, must all have been around there.
Yeah, and there was another guy that was from that Tri Central group that was fourth. I feel bad, I don't know his name, but he was right there. So I think I got into third position relatively quickly, maybe 7 miles into it. I was in third, I think, and passed that other Tri Central guy, and then Tony Cullen, and then it was just trying to believe that you could catch another guy, but I think Maschiarelli, he was running about the same pace I was, so I wasn't bridging any kind of gap, and Brian was running pretty strong up there. We were inching on him, but not enough to catch him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sure. And how was your experience of the run course then? Because I think you look at the profile of it on the website, and it doesn't look, just the way the profile's drawn on the map, it doesn't look that hilly, but then when you run it, there doesn't seem to be any flat on that run course at all, does there? It's like a real lower back and glutes killer, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it seemed like you were just either constantly going up or trying to, catch your balance going back down. No, it was definitely a tough run course. Really, really hard. So.
And all right, so we've got to ask you this from like an age grouper's point of view. Yeah. Your first Ironman marathon looks like it went just about as well as it possibly could have done. You ran 3:06, which is seriously moving, man, and you've got to give yourself a pat on the back for that. It was it's not an easy course to run fast on, and to run 3:06 on that course, I think is very, very impressive. But to do it in your debut Ironman, how confident were you when you set off on the marathon that you were going to be able to run well?
The run is something that even before coming back to triathlon now, I took a 3-year layoff, and the running was something that I constantly kept up. So I felt that my running was to a good standard, and I was actually hoping for a sub 3 hour marathon in this Ironman. But just that bike just took a little bit more out of my legs than I expected, and 3:06 was what I could muster up. But confidence wise, I was feeling like I was going to be able to make up some ground there. But unfortunately, it wasn't as much as I had hoped. So,
well, you've alluded there to that brings us around nicely to the old ITU career and subsequent sort of gap you've taken from triathlon. Tell us a little bit about your background, because I know you raced ITU for, let me get this right, Slovenia, am I correct?
Close, Rob, close. Slovakia.
Damn it. I'm sorry. That's like calling a Welshman an Irishman, isn't it?
It's close enough. Pretty close.
So you raced ITU for Slovakia. You grew up in the US.
Yes. So I know it's a bit complicated with me. Yeah. My mother is from Texas, and my dad is from Slovakia. And
okay.
I was raised in the States. We grew up in the States, and because of the international family, we'd go make frequent trips back. But then, when I became professional, I had an option to either go the U.S. route or the Slovakian route, and I would have been proud to represent both. But the U.S. is such a huge nation that to get that support, Slovakia was offering a lot more support than the U.S. Could do, and I don't blame them for that. There's 300 million people in this country, and you have to really be top notch to get that support. So naturally, I ended up representing Slovakia and was proud to do so. And even now, as I've come back to professional racing, I still represent Slovakia.
Yeah, nice. And tell us about your ITU career then. How did you end up in triathlon in the first place?
So I started off as a swimmer. Here in the States, I swam in college and I ran in college, and And I always had in the back of my mind that after uni, I was going to go and try to give this triathlon thing a real shot. And just like any kid, had, Olympic aspirations. The dream was to get to the Olympics. And so that's why I went the ITU route and was just trying to kind of really somehow make it. I mean, I didn't really get close per se. I think my world ranking was the best it ever got was about 400, which is not even close to making the Olympic team. But that's what I was chasing, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, sure. Well, hats off to you, man. There's so many people dream about trying to become a professional and racing on the ITU circuit. You got out there and did it, and good for you, man. And I think it just goes to show, doesn't it? Who was I talking to just the other week? Sam, who won the Lakesman, who did a stunning performance at the Lakesman. He did 8:20 on debut there. Wow. And his family now live in France, and so he races on the French Grand Prix circuit over there. So he's come from, in his words, getting hammered on the French Grand Prix circuit because he can only run, I forget, a mid 14-minute 5K or something. and he was really lacking in his run confidence. Yeah. And he runs a 2:40 in his first marathon. So I think the general population don't understand quite how deep the field is at ITU level, where there are so many guys who are swimming, biking, and running so fast, right? Yes,
I mean at that thick ITU level, it is so very deep. I mean, I'm not even a 14-minute 5. I'm a 15-minute 5K guy, and that was just actually run-wise, that was below average for ITU. I could swim with any of those guys there, and then get on the bike and do my thing. But then, if you're running, if you're a 15-minute guy off the bike, or low 16s, it was just very average. So, for people like me who were dreaming of getting to the Olympics, I would just have to have a perfect breakaway type race and hang on from there. And that's what you race for, because you believe that'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't quite pan out that way for me.
What was your best ever race on the ITU circuit? What's your favorite memory from those days?
I had a lot of good memories, but if I had to single out my best performance, was probably in a little European Cup race in Kiev, Ukraine, where things all just came together. And it was in 2014. I was trying to actually qualify for the European Games, and that was kind of the main goal. They were going to have the first ever European Games in Baku the next year.
Oh yeah.
So I got some good points there in Kiev and had a really good race. I think I came in 17th. And, if you get a top 20 performance at a European Cup, you're in the points and stuff. So it was kind of yes, I finally, I belong here, I've gotten the points. And then I followed that up with another point finish race in Istanbul. So things were kind of rolling that year, and then ended up qualifying for Baku, which was a really nice feeling.
Nice.
So that was a nice little string of races then. And then racing the next year, Slovakia, being as small as it is, was actually allowing me to race some World Series races, which was just awesome for me. But from European Cups, it's quite a big step up, the World Series. And I always tell people that I coach now, especially the kids who have aspirations, is, don't waste time trying to do this and that. If you want to do this, just do it right away. And the experience that I had on the World Series in 2015 as a 30-year-old, I wished I would have experienced that as a 20-year-old, because then I could have just, I learned so much. I wished I could have built on that. And even though I don't think physically you can keep going for many years into your 30s, it's just, life starts happening, life, the window of opportunity slowly closes. You need to be established. And the experiences that I had on the World Series that year, it was just kind of I needed everything to go perfect to keep going, and they didn't go perfect. And it was kind of I needed to give back to the family that have supported me and stop mooching off of everybody. So that's why essentially I retired in 2015 and just kind of turned my passions to coaching.
So did you Did you feel a lot of pressure during that year when you were racing? It sounds like, not that you have a lot of regrets, but it sounds like, you really gave it your best shot, but you were pulled in two different directions at the same time.
Yeah, like I got in the best shape ever that year, and I was really. I think there was a couple of, like, for example, I raced 4 World Series races that started off in South Africa, and actually I was in the chase pack there, and the chase pack was actually about to mesh with the front pack, and Alistair Brownlee won that race, and all I needed to do was like run a 34-minute 10K off the bike there, and I would have got some nice Olympic points. And but unfortunately, a guy crashed into my wheel and broke the spoke, and I was unable to finish the bike. And so this kind of thing happened in all my World Series races that year. So it was like there would have been hope to gain some nice Olympic points, but it just was like it wasn't meant to be,
Yeah.
That was kind of the feeling I got from it. And but I learned so much that year. And like I said before, if I was just a little bit younger, and I could have really used that as motivation for the next year,
Yeah, sure. So how did you end up moving to the UK and living over here then, and doing your thing around the Bolton area?
Yeah, so interesting story there. Like, so up until that point, I was training in Slovakia, and I used to, Richard Varga, me and him used to train together all the time. And when Rio was getting closer, Richard decided that he was going to go and live in Leeds and train with the Brownlees full time. And at the time, while he went and left over there, it just happened to, it wasn't planned, but my family, my parents, they actually moved to the Bolton area. My dad had gotten a job teaching at a university.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they just, it just happened to work out that they lived there. And we kind of came, it was 2015, and my dad was like, you're going for this really hard, but, why don't you do it 100%? Because I was working a part-time job in Slovakia, and he said, why don't you just come home? You don't have to work, and just, give it a proper go. Just train. And Richard was like, yeah, come to England. You can come over and train with us, every once in a while. So I was like, right, all right. So I ended up moving to the Bolton area, Horwich specifically, and was training full time. And then, every so often I'd go over to Leeds and train with, the Richard and the Brownlees and stuff. And that was awesome. And so that's how I ended up living in Bolton. Then after that year, when I decided to walk away, I ended up just starting to do my coaching business there, working, and I really liked it there. So I just stayed. And it's funny enough, my family ended up moving back to the States, and I just stayed in England.
Oh, so, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where your segue into coaching happened, and I suppose like the break from the professional racing there, but it was obvious from the coaching course that we did, and you had a real passion for helping other people and for passing on the knowledge that you did have. How's the last few years gone building up the coaching business?
Oh, it's been absolutely amazing. I think with my whole triathlon story, I've learned so many things like the hard way, that it's actually given me more insight into try to help other people not make the same mistakes I did. And I think it's really helped me as a coach, because I think sometimes if you just happen to grow up in the perfect setup, and you have all the best coaches and all the best training partners and everything is right, that you become really good and you don't know how you got to be that good. And I think sometimes when you've kind of hit your head against the wall a few times like I've had, then you think about what it takes to be a good athlete. And that's what I've been trying to, kind of share with my athletes that I coach. And it's been really fun. It's been awesome. And I think it's actually helped me be a better athlete myself. And I'm just absolutely so thankful that now I've had this opportunity to return to the sport and kind of have unfinished business, so to speak. I'm using that knowledge that I've accumulated coaching, and it's actually helping me be better as an athlete now.
So let's talk a little bit then about your return to triathlon and your return to racing. I get the sense that there was maybe a long distance itch that needed scratching. Is that kind of what drew you back?
Yeah, that's right, Rob. So Yeah, what needed to happen was just to kind of feel like, um, unlike 2015 where I trained really hard and I wasn't able to really see the fruits of my performance just because of all the mishaps, I felt like I wanted to finish triathlon on a high note. Um, and now the opportunities come back up that I get to kind of return to some serious training. And I want to, just like you said, scratch that long distance itch and get in great shape and try to have a serious impact on the professional field in long distance. So that's what I'm doing now, and I'm feeling great. So I'm really excited about the future here. We'll see what happens.
Did you take your Kona slot?
Actually, I get asked that a lot. I couldn't because I have an Ironman Pro membership. And in Bolton, there was not a pro wave, so I wasn't eligible for any age group slots. So.
Got you. So you've already got a pro license to race pro, and this was kind of a clever way to dip your toe in the water, as it were.
Right, exactly. I always said that if I got the chance to do Ironman, I'd want to do Bolton, and I was disappointed when they dropped the pro wave, but I was like, you know what, I want to do it anyways. So yeah, that's why I did that one.
Nice. Oh, you got to do your hometown race, especially when it's as ridiculously hard as this one is.
Yeah, that's right.
So what's next for you then? What's the plan going forward? Have you got any more races lined up this season?
Yes. So I'm trying to race late, deep into October and November. So it's kind of like a little bit of rebuilding now, trying to build on the fitness that we had from Ironman UK. But I'm looking to race 70.3 Waco in October. And then I know I want to finish the season off with a big Ironman. But I'm not sure if I'm going to do Florida or try to go down to South America. But whatever race it is, I want to do it with a stacked pro field so I can see how I match up against the big boys.
Good man. Yeah. Go down and lay it out amongst a big field, huh?
That's the goal, yeah.
Nice. Can we talk a bit about your training for Ironman UK? Because I think people are really interested in anybody's training that's done well in a race. And I've heard a few things on your video that I think will raise a few eyebrows from the listeners. So let's firstly talk about what did you do in terms of staying in shape while you had your 3-year break from triathlon? Did you still run, bike and swim during that time? I know you said you did quite a lot of running.
Yes, so during that time, I wanted to stay in shape. Once you've done triathlon for so many years, it just becomes part of your lifestyle. But because I was throwing my passions into coaching and things, I didn't have all that much time. And I said to myself, I want to keep at least one sport at a kind of decent level. And running is the most time efficient. So I just chose running. And even during the time away, I still ran, anywhere from 50 to 60 miles a week. And that was for the whole three years away. I kept that up. And then just every week I dip my toe in the pool and do 4 to 6 Ks worth of swimming for the week. I think my usual routine was about 3 times 2K, just kind of jump in the water and 2K was a quick 30-minute swim and but it was enough to kind of feel the water and feel like I was still keeping some form of swimming up. But cycling, it was something that I didn't get an opportunity to do much at all. Just cycling's more time consuming, so I didn't do any cycling over the 3-year period.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
None?
There was a few weeks here and there where there was some time opened up and friends wanted you to come out and ride, so I'd go and do that. But it would never be more than like 2 weeks, and then it would be like 7-8 months of no cycling.
Wow. Wow, so you really had the comeback trail to climb when you decided to get back into proper triathlon training, huh?
Yeah, and my splits show it as well. You see the swim and the run are okay, but then you see the bike splits always a little bit off the mark. So I'm trying to change that now. I feel it's coming back, and I really like to be twice the cyclist I was this year, next year.
When did you start training for Bolton? How far before the race?
So I decided that I wanted to do it back in November, last fall in November, And that's when I slowly started being a triathlete again and just kind of getting all the sports back up. Literally, I think my training week back then was about a 10-hour training week, 5 hours of cycling. I kept my 55 miles of running, but then I did maybe like 8Ks worth of swimming, and then I just built from there,
Okay, and then what did you end up at? What was your sort of your peak volume phase? How many hours were you covering, would you say, at that point?
Yeah, so I built up all the way to where my swim was up to 20K per week, and then I was cycling around 14 hours per week, and then all through I just kept the run the same. I still kept it at 55 miles. I think my biggest run week during the tri training was about 62 miles.
Okay.
So so it got back to what I would call more of a professional type training week. And I did that for a few weeks. I did that before I raced 70.3 Galveston in April. And so I got to that volume right before then. And then sadly, after that race, my grandmother died and we had family stuff and we went, training kind of took a back seat for a few weeks. But then after that, I was able to get it back to that volume again. For a good month before I tapered off the Ironman.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's tragic news.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I've lost my train of thought completely. I was going to say, what was your experience of transitioning from like an ITU style? I'm guessing it's almost entirely pack riding, right? As you're racing there, and a lot of drafting skills. To all of a sudden, you're on a completely different bike. You're on your time trial bike. You're out there for 5 or 6 hours on your own all the time. How was that transition for you? Because I imagine it's almost like two completely different sports, isn't it, right?
Yeah, I mean, in one hand, it is different. I think what's really different is the mindset, but, the same training principles apply. I think a lot of age groupers especially make the mistake of thinking that, just because they're training for an Ironman or something that they don't need to do any speed work anymore. And that's just absolutely false. And, I kept my speed as much as possible up by doing track sessions and really anaerobic bike sessions, and same thing in the pool. The only difference is that, when you do a long ride and a long bike, a long run, you have to know what you're training for. And that's when I'd really get into those Ironman type distances. I think the biggest thing for me, what was a big change and something I didn't think about as much, was in ITU, riding in the pack. You're not thinking about watts and aero position too much at all. Whereas now it's all about saving watts everywhere. And it didn't dawn on me until after Ironman UK how behind I am on this, and looking at the setup of my bike and then looking at like some of the other guys and thinking to myself, I could have saved a lot of watts if I had just done this or that. And so it's just different, when it comes to that. That's where I think I was behind a little bit. So I'm trying to get on the ball now with being more aero and saving watts and things. But that was the biggest difference for me.
Yeah. We'll have a chat after this, man. I've got some things to share with you. I saw some videos and thought, we'll have a little chat later.
Oh, brilliant.
I got some good ideas for you, buddy. So in terms of like going forward as a pro athlete, it's obviously incredibly hard to make a living and make any kind of financial living from pro sport. Who are the guys who are helping you out? Who are your sponsors at the moment? And how difficult has it been to try and, start to get that professional contract idea back together again?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it right there, Rob. It's very tough. Professional triathletes don't make much money at all, so you do heavily rely upon your sponsors. And thankfully, I have a pretty good team around me. I'm sponsored by Play Tri, which is just the triathlon superstore. Their home base is in Dallas, but now they have stores all over the nation in the U.S., and I think they're trying to expand to Europe as well. But it's just an amazing, it's an amazing company. When it comes to triathlon, I mean, they have literally anything you can think of, and just their approach to trying to help triathletes is really personal. So I really like that. So they're kind of like my chief sponsor. But then I live in a town called Shreveport here in Louisiana, and I have several local sponsors that have been just amazing. Jay Wineland Group Benefits here in town. They've taken an interest in me, and they helped me get my bike, and then Insight Medical Billing, another local company that has taken an interest in me, and they've been absolutely amazing. Science to Health, that's actually based in Bolton.
Really?
Sam McKenzie is a sports scientist, and he works with a lot of boxers and athletes, and he was helping me with my nutrition, and I think because of him, I was really able to kind of have a good experience on my first Ironman. He knows his stuff. So I would definitely recommend Science to Health to anybody who's trying to get nutritional help. So yeah, these guys have been amazing. Of course, I can't go without mentioning sponsors, without mentioning my family, who's kind of the chief sponsor. Without their support, it wouldn't be possible at all. But yeah, so I'm looking obviously always to try to get more sponsors, and that's basically what you try to do as a professional triathlete. More sponsors, the better, so that you can do what you love.
Yeah. How, in fact, were your mum and dad there? Did they get to come over and watch you race, or were they already back in the US?
They were back in the US. They were following me on the tracker and things. But I did have my brothers there with me. My brothers flew in. I have two brothers. They flew in and they were watching, and that YouTube video, my brother filmed most of the action footage there. So yeah, it was great to have them.
And tell us a little bit about your YouTube video and your YouTube channel and stuff, because you've got a bit of a junior Lionel Sanders thing going on here, I think. Man. It's like the homemade Lionel Sanders. I'm loving it.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, so I've got the YouTube channel called Siska Training Systems. If you just YouTube that, you'll definitely find my channel. And I tell you what, I'm really getting pumped about it. It was at Christmas, this past Christmas, I had less than 100 subscribers, and now I have around 6,000.
Oh,
so
wow.
That was a big jump. I'm officially a YouTube partner, so making a little bit of cash off the channel as well. So yeah, if you're interested in anything triathlon related, swimming, how to do certain things in swimming, running, it's on the channel, and I hope to make many more videos on those topics in the future. So check it out if you're interested.
Nice. Well, we'll try and stick a link to your channel in the show notes, man, so people can click through from whatever podcast player they're listening to this on. Listen, I want to ask you about this. You said you live in Louisville at the minute. Would you, or Louisville, is it pronounced? I'm trying to get my accent correct here.
No, that's Louisiana, Rob. It's the state, Louisiana, and the town I live in is called Shreveport.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
I was getting all confused. I was going to say that the Ironman Louisville one, but it's probably completely thousands of miles apart, right?
Similar name, but yeah, no, Louisville is a little bit further up north. But no, that's one that I was thinking about. You know, it's funny you bring that up. I was thinking about doing that one.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, good. All right, so people want to find out more about you and your coaching and your social channels and all that. Where can they find out? Where are you on the social media?
So Siska Training Systems, you'll find me on Facebook just by typing in Siska Training Systems. Same thing for Instagram and Twitter. Then on YouTube, same thing. Then I have a website, a coaching website, which is www.siskatrainingsystems.com. And it's a new site, but that's where you can find all kinds of how-to info on training and get the Siska gear and whatnot.
Loving it.
So yeah, you can get all that good stuff there.
Great, man. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming on the show, and congratulations, man. Getting on the podium of an Ironman race in your first iron distance race and having such a strong all-round performance is fantastic. And I think there's good things ahead for you in the Ironman world, my friend.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, Rob.
All right, buddy. We'll speak to you again soon, I hope.
Oh, definitely.
All right there. Hope you've enjoyed that. Lucas is a cracking guy, super enthusiastic, and I'd love to see him get some great results over 70.3 in Ironman in the coming months. We had a great chat off air actually afterwards. I've got some good ideas about aerodynamics and kit and things for him that's really going to improve his race time. So don't be surprised if you see him make another massive jump in the next race that he's in. So that pretty much brings us to the end of this show. Go and check out Lucas's YouTube channel. He's got some great stuff on there. And also, again, shout out to our sponsors, precisionhydration.com, foodcell.co.uk, and teamoxygenaddict.com. Right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We're back next week with an interview with 70.3 superstar India Lee. Until then, have a great, safe training and racing week. I'm Coach Rob Wilby. Helen's not here this week, but she's here in spirit with us. I hope you guys have got a great week coming up. Enjoy the summer. We'll speak to you all again soon. Cheers, everyone. See ya.